These are F1 last lap moments,
Far enough back, he's going to make the lunge down the inside!
but they get increasingly more dramatic. Number 15, 1979 French Grand Prix. Starting off the list, we've got one of the fiercest battles in F1 history at the Dijon-Prenois circuit between Gilles Villeneuve's Ferrari and René Arnoux' Renault, both battling it out for second place on the final lap. Arnoux managed to catch up with Villeneuve in the closing laps, and they traded paint a few times as they exchanged positions. But it was Villeneuve who pulled off the game changer on the last lap at turn 1. He went all in, diving aggressively on the inside, locking up all four wheels and pulling off an incredible pass to snatch second place with just a quarter-second gap. The Canadian later described that as his best memory of Grand Prix racing. Number 14, 1991 Canadian Grand Prix. Nigel Mansel was leading the 1991 Canadian GP by almost a minute when suddenly his car stopped just a stone's throw from the finish line. In this way, Nelson Piquet achieved the final victory of his career, leaving everyone scratching their heads in disbelief. Now, here's the kicker. The breakdown was put down to electronics, but there were whispers that Mansell messed up by not shifting gears at the hairpin and stalling the car. Or, get this, that he accidentally killed the engine while giving a wave to the crowd on the final lap. Mansell denied both, saying the gearbox slipped into neutral as he downshifted, and Williams blamed it on an electrical glitch. Technically, they're not wrong, but it was Mansell's fault for not keeping the revs high enough to power the electric and hydraulic systems, which jammed up the gearbox. When they got the car back to the pits, they fired up the engine again, and voila, the gearbox was fine. So what's your take on what really went down? Number 13, 2005 Japanese Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen pulled off an amazing comeback. The Finn started way back in 17th place, but worked his way up to second during the race, just 2 laps from the finish, chasing down Giancarlo Fisichella in the lead. But wait, the fun wasn't over yet for Kimi. On the last lap, he went all in at turn 1, sending it on the outside with a crazy late brake, pulling off one of the sickest overtakes ever and securing an epic win. Number 12, 2002 Austrian Grand Prix. Check this out. In Spielberg back in 2002, we witnessed one heck of a race, and it stirred up some serious drama in Formula One's long history. Rubens Barrichello's Ferrari had owned the track all weekend, leading from start to finish. And just when he was about to clinch his first win of the season on the last lap, bam! The team hits him with a radio message. Let Michael pass for the championship. Can you believe it? Barrichello reluctantly let his teammate Schumacher zip past him right before the finish line, leading to one of the most embarrassing and shameful moments in F1 history. At the podium, the crowd wasn't having it, booing and giving thumbs down all around. Schumacher himself placed Barrichello up on the top spot. Ferrari got slammed with criticisms by both teams and fans. And here's the kicker. Schumacher ended up winning the championship with nearly double the points of the runner-up, poor old Barrichello. Totally unnecessary drama, right? Number 11, 2005 European Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen was really gunning it at Nürburgring in 2005, battling on worn-out tires. But just when victory seemed within reach on the last lap, excessive vibrations caused a suspension failure, sending him smashing into the wall at over 270 km/h in a spectacular crash. And guess who swooped in to snatch the win? Fernando Alonso. He only led the final lap, but ended up taking home some sweet points that boosted his championship hopes. Number 10, 2020 British Grand Prix. Something like what happened to Kimi Raikkonen went down with Lewis Hamilton in the 2020 British Grand Prix, but with a happier ending. The Briton was cruising in the lead with a solid 30-second gap over Max Verstappen on the final lap, when bam! Out of nowhere, just like some other drivers that day, he suffered a puncture in the front left tire. So, there was Hamilton fighting to keep going, while Verstappen was closing in fast, making for a nail-biting battle against the clock. But somehow, Hamilton hanged on for dear life and crossed the finish line first with just a 5-second gap. Number 9, 2016 Austrian Grand Prix. Another heart-stopping last lap at Spielberg went down in 2016 when teammates and title rivals Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were duking it out for the win. Hamilton went full throttle on turn 3, making a move on the outside while Rosberg wasn't giving an inch, defending like crazy, and bam, they ended up colliding. Hamilton somehow kept it together to clinch the win, but poor Rosberg, with his car all beat up, limped home in 4th. You can just imagine Toto Wolff's fury that day. Number 8. 1991 Brazilian Grand Prix. Ayrton Senna's first win at his home race was an absolute thriller in Formula 1 history. The McLaren driver, comfortably leading the race with over 30 seconds ahead of Riccardo Patrese, faced a gearbox issue. This meant that he was stuck in 6th gear for the last 7 laps. Meanwhile, the rest of the pack was closing in, and to top it off, it started raining. But did Senna give up? Heck no! He went all out for the win, crossing the finish line first while the crowd went wild. You could tell he gave it everything he had because he needed help getting out of the car and could barely lift the trophy. He was totally spent. Number 7. 1986 Spanish Grand Prix. Another legendary moment for Ayrton Senna went down at the newly built Jerez circuit in 1986. The Brazilian driver was leading the race in the last laps, but his worn-out tires were failing him and Nigel Mansel was gaining ground. Senna was hanging on for dear life, and as they came out of the final corner, Mansell caught his slipstream and pulled up alongside him, crossing the finish line side by side. In the end, Senna snagged the victory by just 14 thousandths of a second. Number 6. 1971 Italian Grand Prix. The finish of the 1971 Italian Grand Prix at Monza was one of the most epic in history. In the final laps, it was a 5-way brawl for the win, with drivers taking turns to slipstream on Monza's long straights. They all came out of the Parabolica neck and neck, with Francois Sever and Ronnie Peterson leading the charge. But out of nowhere, Peter Gethin, who started 11th, pulled a sneaky move on the inside and snatched the win by just 100ths of a second, the closest finish ever. The top 5 were separated by only 61/100ths of a second. It was pure madness. And Gethin's secret? Rumor has it he had a slightly shorter 4th gear than usual to nail the acceleration out of the Parabolica, which gave him the edge. Number 5. 1998 British Grand Prix. Alright, check this out. On Sunday, July 12, 1998, Michael Schumacher pulled off one of the most mind-boggling moves in Formula 1 history. Picture this, a race soaked with rain and packed with crashes. So on lap 43, Schumacher, leading the pack ahead of Mika Häkkinen, lapped Alexander Wurz under yellow flags before the race got slowed down, earning himself a 10-second penalty. But here's the twist. The notice came a whopping 30 minutes later, when there were only 2 laps left. Over in the Maranello box, they were scratching their heads. The penalty confusion played right into Ferrari's hands. They called Schumacher into the pits on the final lap. He had to do a stop and go, but here's the kicker. Since the finish line at Silverstone was before the Ferrari garage, Schumacher technically clinched the win before serving his penalty. Back on the track, Häkkinen was miles ahead, and despite the chaos in the paddock, the German was crowned the winner because the penalty wasn't applied correctly. Crazy, right? Number 4. 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. Next up on the list, we've got a race that's gonna go down in history for many reasons. The 2011 Canadian Grand Prix was an absolute roller coaster, thanks to the rain. We're talking a record-breaking 5 safety cars and a 2-hour red flag that made it the longest race ever by over 4 hours. But what really makes it unforgettable is Jenson Button's insane comeback. After a run-in with his teammate Lewis Hamilton that sent him to the back of the pack, Button turned on the magic. He sliced through the field like a boss, battling the rain to claw his way back to 2nd place. And then, on the final lap, just when everyone thought Sebastian Vettel had it in the bag, the German slipped up, and Button swooped in to snatch one of the most epic wins of all time. Number 3. 2023 Brazilian Grand Prix. Another wild finish that had fans jumping out of their seats went down at Interlagos in 2023, all thanks to the epic showdown between Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez for a spot on the podium in the last laps. After trailing behind for ages and struggling to get past Alonso's defense, Perez finally found his opening and zipped past the Aston Martin driver with just 2 laps to go. But Alonso wasn't ready to throw in the towel. Out of nowhere, he pulled off this insane move at turn 4 in the last lap to deliver a final blow to the Mexican. But hold on to your hats, because the excitement didn't stop there. The battle raged all the way to the finish line. Perez got a good draft and pulled up alongside Alonso in the final stretch, and when they crossed the line, they were separated by just 56 thousandths of a second. And the photo finish revealed that Alonso won the duel. Number 2. 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Heading into the 2021 season finale in Abu Dhabi with equal points, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton went all out at the Yas Marina circuit, delivering one heck of an ending that was both epic and controversial. Hamilton led the race from the get-go, but with just 5 laps to go, Nicholas Latifi's crash brought out the safety car. Verstappen in second place seized the chance to switch to fresh tyres, while Hamilton stuck it out on his hards, which had over 40 laps. Now here's where it gets spicy. There were 5 lapped cars between them, originally told to stay put, but with only 2 laps left, only they, and not all lapped cars, got the green light to pass the safety car and get back on the lead lap, leaving Hamilton and Verstappen together. As the safety car prepared to exit the track for the last lap, the entire championship hung on the outcome of just a single lap. With fresher tyres, Verstappen went for it on the inside of turn 5, overtaking Hamilton. But Hamilton didn't throw in the towel, fighting tooth and nail until the bitter end. Alas, Verstappen snagged his first championship, but Mercedes, not happy with how the FIA handled things, slapped them with not 1 but 2 lawsuits, and heads rolled within the FIA itself. It was a total drama. Number 1. 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix. And the most dramatic ending of them all. That's got to be the one we saw at Interlagos in 2008. Felipe Massa crossed the finish line first, and for about half a minute, it seemed like he had won the championship, right in front of his fans. But hold up, out of the blue, Lewis Hamilton, his title rival, passed Timo Glock in the rain-soaked penultimate corner to grab 5th place. And with it, the championship, by just 1 point. The Ferrari pit crew already popping the champagne, and Massa himself were left in disbelief. And that's how Hamilton clinched his first championship out of the blue and catching everyone off guard, breaking the hearts of Brazilian fans in the process. And if you're hungry for more epic stuff, don't miss out on the coldest overtakes in F1 history. What are you still doing here? Come on, click to witness the magic.